10 days after the Malaysian Airlines MH-370 with 239 passengers on board disappeared, there's still no sign of the aircraft or its passengers. Well, investigators are, however, putting the entire incident together piece by piece as they say they are hopeful of a breakthrough. Here is the latest in the probe that the world is watching closely.
These were the last words out of flight MH-370's cockpit. And latest revelations show it was co-pilot Fariq Abdul Hamid who uttered them, not Captain Zahri Shah as earlier speculated. The residence of the young co-pilot was the center of probe again. After the informal nature of the utterance, instead of the more formal acknowledgement, hardened further the suspicions of hijacking or sabotage.
Initial investigation indicated it was the co-pilot who basically spoke the last time it was recorded on tape.
There is meanwhile a clearer picture emerging of how the MH-370 flight systems were tinkered around with. The ill-fated flight took off from Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 am. Less than half hour into the flight, the ACARS system, which sends flight information to base, was turned off. 12 minutes later, the last voice communication came from the aircraft. 2 minutes later, the transponders were turned off. An ACARS transmission was due at 1:37 am, but of course it never came. 93 minutes into the flight, the aircraft disappeared from the radar. Experts say the flight had enough fuel to fly another 5.5 hours. Headlines Today has learned that Malaysian possibility of the aircraft dropping below an altitude of 5,000 feet to evade radar are also being looked into.
These are the Twin Towers of Kuala Lumpur and they are at an altitude of approximately 1,480 feet. Malaysian authorities, however, are looking into a very interesting angle of the suspected hijack of MH-370. They're trying to examine whether the 200-ton twin-jet aircraft had descended to an altitude of 5,000 feet or even lower after its turn back.
Meanwhile, even as INS Kesari, one of the Indian warships involved in the search and rescue mission, returned to base at Port Blair, Indian authorities are clearly displeased with claims by some Malaysian officials that the aircraft could have used runways at the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to land. This has created a lot of heartburn, especially with the Chinese. Bureau Report, Headlines Today.